What's going on, my friends? I hope you're well. I'm doing well. I'm just here getting a track done for a publisher. I've got to do about 1 or 2 a week for these guys. Usually been about 1 a week for a TV show. They needed some composers for at least 6 to 12 months to submit. It was originally, I think, 2 tracks a week, and I think went back to 1 track a week because they're getting so many of them. They've got to go through them and compile albums. And interesting thing I was thinking about here, and it's been talked about before in different ways, and I think it's just kind of come to mind to kind of talk about a little bit of kind of the way I do things, and I think that would help you if you're in production music and starting out in sync licensing, music licensing, whatever the term you want to use. It's all, the end result is the same. We're licensing it in and getting it placed to TV shows, films, commercials, promo trailers, you name it, whatever the opportunity may be. You may be struggling with a little thing called rejection. And it's a good way of getting past that. And we all go through it. I went through it. I went through this whole, like, what the hell do you mean? You don't like, my spooky guitar playing. You don't like it? There's reasons, and some of you have been doing this long enough to know that maybe it's something about that track that they didn't feel would fit with what they're submitting to. It's not that it was bad for that track. It's not that it was bad, it's not your guitar playing. It's not your piano playing. It's not the instrument or the element you put in there. Though sometimes not sometimes, all the time, it's good to pay very close attention, like when you read a brief, or maybe it's not in the brief, it's to ask a question of, what elements, instruments, or sounds do you not want in here? That's very important to ask what you don't want, because if you don't put what they don't want, you're one step ahead of the game. The rest is just getting it done. Because sometimes they fail to mention that. And this particular brief for the whole project, they didn't really get specific what instruments they didn't want, but one of the tracks that they rejected was they don't really want any strings and nothing too scary, and that's fine. That's okay. Of course, I didn't know. They didn't know. You don't take it stuff personally. I've been doing this long enough. Like, that's cool. That's great. That track went to another publisher, and it's in there, and there's a good chance it's going to get placed. It's okay. And my point here is that if you get past worrying about whether it's you or the instrument or not, it's not. If your music is doing it, it's not. It's not the guitar. It's not that. It's not the fact that it was bad or any bad for the track. It probably just, every one of these guys are different. It just doesn't work for what they're looking for. And this particular library is very picky. Very picky. And that's okay. It's his protocol. He knows what his clients want, or it really boils down to what their niche is, what they are good at, and why they deal with the clients they're with. Is they want to make sure they're sending that to their clients, because that's what their clients pull from, what they like. I don't know if you know, and you might, that a lot of these production companies, these music supervisors, these production heads, and these people, they pull from several different sources. Not just one in particular, but they may have just a limited set of sources, or they may look everywhere. It just depends. That they pick each one of these guys because they have a certain specialty or something they like about them. It's not just, I'm just going to randomly pick 15 different libraries and I'm going to pull from them because I think they're cool. No, there's something about them, and it's the music or things they do. And it may have been that they built a good relationship with them and they do produce music, and it wasn't really one thing particular. Like I said, there's no set formula. And on a side note, I've mentioned that one of the important things about the Production Music Conference each year, if you go, is that there are some of the biggest music supervisors on the planet. They've done some of the biggest films, the biggest TV shows that you watch, are speakers and go to this conference. And they're not unapproachable of walking up and asking them a few questions if they're not in a meeting or a panel. And I think the best question to ask those guys, because some of y'all may be hung on, we got to get to the music supervisors. You got to get off of that. Start with the libraries. The music supervisors are very hard and it's almost impossible to connect with them, because there's a thing about the music supervisors aren't just out looking for music randomly. They're looking for music for certain projects, and what they're hired to do. And they pull from libraries and they pull from different sources. They even go to Spotify. They go to YouTube. They go a lot of different places looking for music, places you probably wouldn't even think about they look for. So, but the best question to ask these guys is simply this. Hey, listen, I got a question. I know that you get a lot of emails and you deal with trusted sources, which is the truth. Music supervisors can kill their career pretty quickly if they pull a bad piece of music from a bad source. But can you tell me where the places that you look for your music, your sources, that you look for your music? Because as much as I'd love to work with you, I'd love to try to have my music there so I know when you're looking, I've got better odds at getting my music selected maybe. And I think they would respect that. I know they would, because it's been asked before. And they would probably sit there and maybe list a lot of the places they look. They may not list all their places. There may be some places that they don't want to reveal. I don't know. I really have no idea what the reason would be on that. But start with libraries. Libraries are going to really, I think, people have learned, because it used to be in these forums, these guys going, well, how can I get to the supervisors and all this big hypo data? Like, you got to cut that out and just, it's okay. Go with libraries. You're gonna have an impossible journey of music licensing if you try to ignore libraries and you don't get your feet out there and your feet wet and get out there and start getting your music placed with libraries and these productions. Because I'm telling you, it's not a bad thing. It's a really good thing. But back to my point here with rejection is that you got to get past that with the particulars. I used to worry about, like, what was it, man? That was a great track. I can't believe it. Was it my guitar playing? Did I do something wrong with the pulse synth, or was it the percussion? You can't hark on. Don't worry about it, because you always know that if you got the music, if you're working on the music and you're doing very well with the music, you're learning, you're getting your productions a lot better, there's another publisher that will take it. And my point is find 3 or 4 libraries that you know. As I said, the biggest point I can make is find libraries that place a ton of what you do the best. Do what you do best on that. It's okay to do a few different genres, but you got to be the master at something. But find those libraries. Build a good relationship with them. You build it by just doing the music and building a rapport, because they're starting to know who you are. And later you may meet them at the music conference or something. You may start understanding them. You start meeting them in person and sitting and talking to them. You understand, a little bit maybe how they tick and how they respond to you. But you're going to know in the emails back and forth, because they're going to start taking your music. But there may be times they don't take a track, and you can't take it personally. Don't worry about the particulars of what it is. They may give you notes and say, hey, well, the guitar's a bit much, not really working for me. But that doesn't mean it's bad for the track. They may say, hey, something's off time there. Definitely go back and fix that, because odds are someone else is going to catch that. It's probably the one of the biggest reasons is it just doesn't work for them. Or maybe you missed it in the brief that they didn't want guitars, or they didn't want strings, or maybe they didn't mention that, but they're telling you, and that's okay. Go back and, it doesn't hurt to say, I can take the guitar out. Is there anything you want me to do differently? I think overall they may say it's just not working for us, and that's okay. That doesn't mean it's a bad track. You got to get past that. If you get past that and go, that's cool, no problem, I'm going to send it over here in hopes it'll get placed. And I've got, other libraries that I work with, and that's what I do. I generally, any of the tracks that they have rejected, I've sent over to this other library. They've taken it, and odds are, based on what I've done for them before, it's going to get placed. It's got great chances of getting placed, because I do a ton of music for them with that. But what I would encourage you to do is that if you can get yourself to working with 3 or 4 different libraries, and the cool thing is that maybe each library's, you're doing a different genre for, and that's okay. This library I get a lot of rock to. This library I get a lot of tension to. I do dramedy for this library. I have a library that's got 2 catalogs in a distributor that I could do tension for one catalog for him, a lot of it, and he's got a lot catalog now that I can do several other types of genres for him now. It's given me an open door to say, well, maybe I can try doing this, or maybe I can do more of what I haven't been doing for him, or there's another library that I'm very limited to on another library. I've got, a couple that are open format and some that are very particular. Over that, what I would encourage you to do once you've built a good foundation of libraries you're working with and placements are coming in and you're doing it is to look for a new library a year to send an album to. Spread out, be diverse. I hate to put it this way, but it's like investing money, my friends. Your music is working for you, and it's going to grow exponentially. Let your music work for you. That's what it's doing. And it's your job to keep feeding the coffer. Keep investing in it. And there's nothing wrong with being diverse. I've done it. I've submitted an album to various libraries in hopes it's going to get different places. And the cool thing is that you've got small libraries that get distribution to BMG or Warner Chappell or APM or Primal House Music or some of these big companies. And some of them are just independent libraries that get a lot of placements. I'm with one or two like that do that. You know, one library, some of my biggest placements, doesn't distribute out to a big company like BMG. They get out there and they hustle on their own and they do a good job. I don't know what they're doing. I don't ask the questions. It's not my job. It's not my place. I just get them the music. And I enjoy it. I love doing it. That's the whole premise of this whole thing. So you got to get past the rejection, folks, and just don't think about it. If anything, that rejection is a positive thing. It fuels you, but it also makes you aware that you are human and that they are as well. It also makes you aware and learn that there's just, everybody's different in what they want out of something. Their protocol is different. Their tastes are different. Or, you know, if we were all the same, it'd be pretty boring. I mean, we would never have all these different genres of music and these things going on in the world of music. That's actually pretty cool. That's why I said my point way back was, don't worry about AI, because AI learns from us. AI does what we tell it to do. And there's always going to be a need for human music. Always going to be. So you be you, do it your way, do it well, and find the libraries that place a ton of what you do the best. And after you find one good library, look for the next one. And a lot of it is collaborating with other composers. They can lead you to those libraries. If you're working together, that library may start taking your music. That's happened for me. I've gotten contracts that way. Go to the Production Music Conference. Just keep your head in the game, but be very careful of the information you're getting. If somebody's trying to steer you in a direction that doesn't feel right, like saying, forget those libraries, go with the music supervisors. That's what you got to do, you know. That person hasn't gotten the right information or doesn't know, you know. I don't know what their reasoning or their purpose for leading you down that path would be, but I'm not saying it's impossible to find a music supervisor you have a relationship with that would take your music. There's some talented people out there. Music supervisors have composers directly that they deal as trusted sources. But mind you, that they're a trusted source through some sort of relationship building or some connection. Somebody referred them or something happened. Or they just happen to get music from them and say, hey, do you have anything else for like a film or something? So it's not impossible, but it's going to be one of the most impossible ways of getting through your music career is trying to just focus solely on that when you're going to do well by volume with libraries. And there's so many out there that'll tell you that. It's one of the biggest conversations at the music conference. That all the panels, most of the people on the stage at the panels are all from big libraries. They're not all supervisors. Unless it's catered to music supervision or things, which are panels. There are panels at the conference that dealing with music supervision and various things. You're going to have mixed libraries and supervisors on the stage depending on the panel. They are there. They're both there. But there's more composers than there are libraries and composers. I mean, than libraries and supervisors at these conferences because it's a working conference and composers are looking for libraries. It might be almost 50-50 on the libraries and the composers, and then you have production heads, supervisors. There are people that are none of the above that go to this conference. They're promoting a product. That's happened. I've had people stop and say, hey, I've got this product, and show me on his iPad, and asking me hypothetical questions. What if you need this? And I'm kind of going, well, that's artist-based and some things I don't really do, but, thank you. And well, what if you? I'm like, okay. It's like he's door-to-door salesman, Okay, I get it. But there's a host of different types of people that go to this conference. There's some people that go to this conference and they do editing or they're producers for films and they're looking for composers or something. I haven't seen many of those, but it's mostly composers, libraries, and supervisors and stuff. But there's tons of people in the industry of different corners of it that are at this library, at this conference, that will give you a really good insight of where you stand and what you can do. And they're always willing to talk to you. You know, give them your card. And, you know, talk to these people. Don't be an introvert. You'll do it. And you'll do well at it. If you've got what it takes with your music, you will do well at it. So anyway, I just want to get on real quick. I'm running a little long. I wanted to touch on that. I've talked about that before, and several people have. But point is, just get past that rejection. Don't worry about it. Just don't worry about the particulars. If one rejects it, have a place to send that track immediately to somebody else and move on, because that's a good thing. That rejection turns into an opportunity. And that's what I do. That's how I'm doing my jam and work on this track now. This track I'm working on now, if they don't take it, I know where it's going, and I'm going to send it over there, because I do a ton of that for those guys. Because if you have a specialty or something you're the best at, you're going to find the best avenues, and more than one, to get that music to and be diverse. I'll let you in a little something before I call this video. Most all these libraries are fighting for the same clients, folks. It boils down to, what it boils down at the end of the day is, what somebody's niche is, what their specialty is why they send music to these people. Or the library, to the same company as this library would send it to, or who's working the hardest and getting out there networking and getting their music placed. In other words, they're all fighting for the same guys. You know, every library wants their music ingested into the CBS system, and NBC and Fox and ABC and Discovery and Disney, and which is just a lot of the same entities. But you get the point, you get the idea. They're all fighting to get their music into that. Each library has a specialty, their own niche, their own way, or they have built that relationship with those guys and been able to get them music. So be thinking about that just find the libraries that work for you. It's all about that relationship, how you connect with them and your music. And if they're willing to take your music and they place a bunch of it, don't just wait for them. Get them music. If they're open source with this, they just send us what you can a year. Do it. If they're briefs only, that's okay. You're on that list. Do what you can in whatever briefs they send out a year. I've got music in a library that only ask for music 4 times a year because he's doing other things. He doesn't have time. So anyway, I'm going to get off. I wanted to jump on and babble about that a little bit, and I hope that you're doing well, and I hope this helps. It's helped me a lot, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Be cool. Bye.